I discovered that my husband had been cheating on me with my own sister. That revelation shattered everything, leading me to divorce him and cut ties with my toxic family completely. For years, I kept my distance, but life has a way of taking unexpected turns. Fast forward, and I was happily married to Christian, 31, for 5 years. Our relationship was strong. We had our share of typical couple disagreements, but we always worked through them, coming out even stronger. Things were going well until about 8 months ago, when my sister, Bella, 29, moved back to our hometown. She had been living in Florida since she was 19, but after her long-term boyfriend dumped her and relocated, she returned home with nothing. The details of their breakup remain murky. When she first told us her side of the story, she claimed he had been cheating with men. I barely knew the guy, having only met him 3 times over the 5 years they were together. Bella usually only came home for Christmas, staying just a few days. Twice, she brought him along. The only other time I saw him was when Christian and I visited them briefly during a vacation 3 years ago. He never struck me as someone leading a double life, let alone the kind of guy who would suddenly abandon her. I tried reaching out to him once, but he had blocked me, so I let it go. When Bella moved back, she stayed with our parents, Linda and Harold, for the first month. She had trouble finding work, so I suggested that maybe Christian could help. He was in a management position at his company, and I figured he might have some influence. Sure enough, he pulled some strings, and she landed a job in his department, working in her field. For context, my sister and I were never particularly close. She had always been the favorite, at least in our mom's eyes, and our dad, well, he never really stood up to her. It wasn't obvious favoritism, just a million little things over the years. Like when we turned 16 and both got cars. I got an old Dodge Neon, while she got a nearly new Mitsubishi Eclipse. Her dance lessons, costumes, and competitions cost our parents thousands, even requiring out-of-state trips. Meanwhile, I had to beg for $50 just to attend a local basketball camp. They always gave me the money, but made sure I knew what an inconvenience it was. What stung the most happened when I was 17. I lost track of time while out with my boyfriend and came home 15 minutes past curfew. My punishment? No car for a month. A year later, Bella strolled in 2 hours late, reeking, and all she got was a stern warning. I wasn't exactly heartbroken when she left for Florida and decided to stay. Despite our history, she started spending more and more time at our house, which at first, I took as an effort to finally build a bond. But soon, I noticed something off. She and Christian had become overly familiar. They'd have these long conversations, share inside jokes, and when I tried to join in, I'd get brushed off with, "Oh, it's just a work thing." When I asked Christian about it, he reassured me that they had common interests and were collaborating on projects. Then came the first real warning sign. I work a later shift than Christian. He's home by 4:30, while I don't get back until 7. I started noticing that Bella would be at our house when I got home. Every time I questioned it, the answer was always the same. "We had some work stuff to go over." 2 months ago, something happened that made me question my own sanity. I always make the bed before leaving for work, ensuring the pillowcases face outward. That night, after Bella had been over, I noticed 2 pillows were flipped, their openings turned toward the middle. When I asked Christian if he had been in bed that day, he looked startled but denied it. "Why do you ask?" he said. I pointed out the change, and he insisted I must have been mistaken because, according to him, no one had been in our bed. I checked his phone and laptop, found nothing unusual. But then again, they spent 8 hours together at work, then more time at our house. Why would they need to text? I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. 2 weeks ago, my parents invited us over for dinner. Everything seemed normal. until I saw something that made my stomach drop. As Christian walked past, Bella lightly grabbed his arm, whispered something, and for a brief moment, they pressed their foreheads together. It was fleeting, but the moment he realized I was watching, he quickly pulled away. Bella simply turned to me, smirked, and went on as if nothing had happened. I'm not naive. I knew this wasn't just paranoia. These were glaring red flags. But I didn't want to believe it. I had loved Christian since I was 21. I had built my life around him. Desperate for clarity, I planned a weekend getaway. I needed to confront him in a private, neutral setting. Then came the moment that shattered my world. We had a wonderful Friday night, drinks, dancing, intimacy. The next morning, I hesitated, almost convincing myself not to ask. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe it was all innocent. But deep down I knew. So I looked him in the eye and asked, "Are you having an affair with my sister?" His face fell. His eyes welled up with tears. And then, the words that destroyed me. "Yes." I felt my heart collapse in my chest. I asked why. He mumbled apologies, said he never meant for it to happen, that they just clicked. One thing led to another. First a kiss, then more. I asked him if he had been sleeping with her in our bed while I was at work. He turned his head away in shame. That was all the confirmation I needed. Without another word, I grabbed my purse and left. I didn't take anything else with me. I drove home alone, leaving him behind. A few hours later, he showed up in an Uber, bringing my things. He tried to apologize again. I didn't even look at him. With tears blurring my vision, I watched as he packed a bag and walked out, heading to a hotel. The following day, I broke the news to my parents. Turns out, they already knew. They gave me their condolences, told me Bella had left the night before, and mentioned she might be gone for a few days. I had no doubt she was staying with Christian. That was 3 months ago. Now, our divorce is nearly finalized. Christian wasted no time finding an apartment, and Bella moved right in with him. At this point, the only reason I even acknowledge his existence is to sort out the divorce details. At first, he claimed I could keep both the house and our savings. Probably a guilty conscience talking. But after a few days, he backtracked, saying we needed to split the house. I knew that was Bella whispering in his ear. Luckily, I had already transferred every cent from our savings into a new account, so at least there was no battle over that. And just like that, 9 years of my life were erased. He has no idea what he's walking into. Bella is a narcissist, and sooner or later, she'll toss him aside just like she does with everyone. She has been vicious throughout this entire ordeal. Just days after I uncovered their betrayal, she tagged me in a Facebook post, some sick joke. It was a selfie of her and Christian, with him kissing her cheek from behind. The caption read, "Feeling loved." Absolutely revolting. I closed the app, logged out, and deleted it from my phone entirely. An hour later, she texted me, "Sorry, sis. Didn't mean to tag you, no hard feelings. I hope we can still be close. You'll meet your soulmate someday too." I blocked her. Everywhere. Every possible platform. And my parents? They weren't much better. At first, they pretended to be sympathetic. But when I told them I was cutting Bella and Christian out of my life completely, my mother just sighed and said, "I'm sorry this happened. It shouldn't have gone down like this, but your sister deserves happiness too. You'll find someone new, and we can all move past this." I was furious. I told them about the disgusting Facebook post and her ridiculous text. My mother's response? "Well, you shouldn't be on social media anyway." My father? Silent. The entire time. When I finally asked him what he thought, he just muttered, "I agree with your mother," and walked out of the room. That was the final straw. I was done with him, too. The house is about to sell, and once it does, I'm moving out of state. No one in my family will know where I'm going or when. I haven't told them a thing. I'm just done. And I wish them nothing but the worst. Hey everyone. It's been 4 years since my last update, but something major just went down. So here I am. First off, a little about me. I'm engaged. It took a lot of therapy to get to this point, but I'm finally in a good place. When I first settled in Minnesota, I tried dating right away. Went on one okay first date before realizing what an insufferable jerk the guy was. That was enough for me. I swore off dating completely. That's when I buckled down on therapy to process all the damage, my husband's betrayal, my sister's cruelty, and the absolute abandonment by my parents. It was a tough year, but eventually I met Nathan. He's 37, and yes, he shares a name with my dad, which is kind of funny. But Nathan is incredible. He's a chef, and he and his twin brother Lucas own a thriving restaurant and bar. I'm excited about our future together. But enough about me. Let's get to the latest family drama. About 9 months after I disappeared from their lives, I was still completely no contact. No one in my family knew where I had moved. Only a handful of friends and a couple of trusted cousins had my new address. Then one day, I came home to find a wedding invitation in my mailbox. Christian and Bella were getting married. The invitation featured a nauseatingly sweet photo of them hugging in a sunflower field. Tucked inside was a letter from my parents. It read something like this. You need to forgive and move on. We know things didn't happen the right way, but we're family, and families work through their problems. Oh, and apparently, Bella wanted me to be a bridesmaid, just like she was for me. What? The actual F. Reading that letter ripped open old wounds I thought I had closed. My therapist definitely earned their paycheck that week. Now, I can laugh about it. But back then, not so much. I didn't respond. The only action I took was figuring out which distant relative had leaked my address to my ex-family, and cutting them off too. Which brings us to the latest fiasco. Just last week, out of nowhere, Christian showed up at my apartment. Nathan and I aren't living together yet, but we will be soon. And Christian? He showed up looking, well, good. Too good. Like he had made an effort. I opened the door and barely concealed my disgust. What do you want? He sighed dramatically. I just want to talk. I'm so sorry for what I did. Bella and I are divorcing. Turns out, she was cheating on me the entire time. Shocking, right? I don't expect you to take me back, but I think we should talk, for closure. I blinked. Twice. He had lost his damn mind. I met his gaze, deadpan. No. You don't get closure. You made your bed, now lie in it. Did you really think that Golden, expletive, who has had more guests than the Holiday Inn, was going to put up a no vacancy sign just because you gave her a ring? You're even dumber than I thought. I forgive nothing. I want nothing from you. I don't care. My life is better without you, and it always will be. Now get lost. Then, I turned around, shut the door, and locked it behind me. Immediately, I called my landlady, the sweetest old woman ever. We've grown close over the past 4 years, and she knows all about my history. While I was on the phone, Christian continued to loiter outside my door like a lost puppy. A few minutes later, her 2 burly nephews, who helped maintain the property, arrived. They made it crystal clear that Christian was not welcome here, and that if he ever came back, he'd be reported for trespassing. I was hoping that would be the end of it. But of course it wasn't. My 9-to-5 job is pretty easygoing these days, which means I have plenty of free time in the evenings. Because of that, I find myself at the restaurant almost every night Nathan is working. I don't interfere. I just hang out, enjoy the atmosphere, and steal whatever moments he can spare for me. Over time, I've gotten close to a lot of the staff, most of whom are part of Nathan and Lucas's family. The whole place has this warm, tight-knit feeling, the kind of family environment I always wished I had growing up. I happened to be there the following night when Christian walked in and, without an invitation, plopped himself down at my table. It was a slow Tuesday. Nathan saw him immediately and came over, checking in on me. He recognized Christian from the pictures I had shown him. Christian, oblivious as ever, reached out to shake Nathan's hand. Nathan didn't take it. Instead, he looked at me and asked, "Want me to throw him out?" I shook my head. "Not yet. I have a couple of questions first." Christian straightened up like he thought he was winning something. What a clown. I asked him to spill the details about what happened between him and Bella. Honestly, I was just morbidly curious. He didn't hold back. Told us she had been fooling around with at least 2 married men. Some habits never die, huh? This was 2 years into the relationship. He said, "It was a rough time for me." Cue the eye roll. I cut in. "But you're not that stupid. Did you protect your assets? Or did she walk away with half of everything?" With an annoyingly smug grin, Christian said, "I stuck around for almost another year, started hiding away money, and sold off some of my assets. In the end, she walked away with only a fraction of what she could have taken." "And what happened to her after that?" I asked. Christian shrugged. "She had to move back in with your parents." "Aw, that was all I needed." "Perfect. Thanks for the update. You can leave now." "Nathan, you heard him." "Out of my restaurant," Nathan said, already stepping forward. Christian tried to protest. "Wait, but I cut him off. No forgiveness, no closure. I just wanted to know my deadbeat sister was back where she belonged. Now get out." Nathan motioned toward the door. Christian hesitated, glancing around. The bartender and 2 of the wait staff were already glaring at him. Finally, he got the message, stood up, and shuffled toward the exit, tail tucked. Before he could leave, Nathan added, "And if you ever come back?" Christian groaned. Yeah. Cops. Trespassing. I get it." Once he was gone, the people around me made sure I was okay. It was a little embarrassing, but also touching. My future in-laws, who I absolutely adore, called me up and insisted I stay with Nathan for a couple of days, just to be safe. It was really sweet. I had never experienced that kind of genuine care from family before. Christian never reached out again. Hopefully, he never will. Hey, everyone. Didn't expect to be back with more, but here we are. First, a little about me. I'm now 41, a mom to 2 little boys, one 5 and one 2. Nathan and I are doing great. These days, I work part-time as an office manager for the restaurants, while mostly being a stay-at-home mom. 3 years ago, Nathan's cousin joined the business, and we opened a second location. It's been a lot of work, but with all 3 of them involved, both places are thriving, and they even get some personal time now and then. Funny enough, I'm pretty sure I got pregnant with our first while staying with Nathan after my last update, all thanks to his parents' insistence. They now joke that they always wanted to be grandparents, and that it was part of their grand plan all along. Now, on to the latest drama. After Christian found me that night, I figured it was only a matter of time before my parents or Bella resurfaced. For a while, nothing happened. I started to relax. I had a strong support system now, so I rejoined social media. I kept my distance from most of my family, but I wasn't naive. I knew if they wanted to find me, they could. The first real attempt came after our first son was born. Out of nowhere, I got a message from my mom. It was a weak apology mixed with a plea for forgiveness and, of course, a request to know about her grandson. I was just going to block her, but the entitlement in her message pissed me off. So I responded, "You don't have any grandchildren. I'm not your daughter, which means my kids have nothing to do with you. If you want grandkids, tell Bella to go do what she does best." And then I blocked her. She didn't take the hint. Made new accounts, kept trying to reach me, but I ignored her. Then things escalated. Suddenly, I was being bombarded with messages and friend requests. The same old sob story. Regrets, missing out on my kids' lives, wanting to make amends. I didn't care. There was no world in which I'd let them back in. Then something even stranger happened. Bella started reaching out. She didn't say much at first, just that she desperately wanted to talk to me. After 3 weeks of her persistence, I finally caved. I agreed to a Zoom call. Just me, no kids. The moment the call started, they immediately asked to see the boys. "Not happening," I told them flat out. My kids had 3 grandparents, Nathan's mom, dad, and grandma. That was it. But something felt off. The whole thing wasn't just about reconnecting. Bella looked awful, and my parents seemed old and worn out. Then, the apologies started. Even from Bella. She said she regretted everything. That she wished she had her sister back. Yeah, sure. Mom took over next, spewing the usual garbage about family and loyalty. When she finished, I just stared at them and asked, "That all you got? Because I'm about to leave." That's when they panicked. The fake concern dropped, and the real reason for all of this finally came out. Turns out, Bella's health has been deteriorating for a while now. Her kidneys are failing, and she needs a transplant. A close family member is her best shot at a match. I looked them dead in the eye and asked, "So this is why you called me? You expect me to save her? After everything she did? First she took my husband, and now she wants a piece of me too?" My mother shot back, her voice sharp. "Enough of that. That was ages ago." Her tough exterior cracked as she started choking up, tears brimming in her eyes. "I understand, all right? You resent us, but if she doesn't get this transplant soon, she's going to die. Is that really what you want? I know she hurt you in the worst way possible, but for once, can we put all that behind us?" I didn't say a word. I wanted to see if they had more to add. Finally, my father spoke up. "Look, we know we screwed up, and we're sorry for everything that happened. But right now, we're drowning. Between her medical bills and us not being able to work like we used to, your mother and I are barely holding on. We're getting older, and things are rough. We're at risk of losing the house. So you need my kidney and my money?" I shot back. "Don't put it like that," he said, shifting uncomfortably. Bella, my sister, chimed in. "Please just come home. I need my big sister. I don't want to die. Just see if you're a match. If you're not, we'll leave you alone forever." I told them I needed time to think, do some research, and that I'd give them my answer the next day. When the call ended, I turned to my husband. He told me he'd support whatever I decided, and then asked if we should all go together or if he should come along with me. "No to both," I replied. "I'm going alone." I let my former family know that I'd get tested in Minnesota, and if I turned out to be a match, then, and only then, would I come down to talk about what came next. About a week later, the results came in. Bella and I were a perfect match. I agreed to return to St. Charles. By the time I arrived, Bella's condition had worsened, and she had to be admitted to the hospital. That, at least, saved me from the awkward expectation of a family dinner. I had zero interest in playing catch-up with people who only reached out when they needed something. That didn't stop my parents, though. Every spare moment, they were asking if I'd thought about helping them out financially. Bella was stabilized, and I went to meet the transplant team. The doctor started explaining the procedure, and I told him I wanted everyone present for the discussion. We all gathered in Bella's hospital room. My parents were already there when the doctor started laying it all out. "Without a transplant, she's got maybe 5 months," he explained. He emphasized how rare and lucky it was that I was such a strong match. "The odds of finding a better donor are slim to none. The sooner we scheduled, the better." I walked over to Bella's bedside and took her hand. I looked right into her big brown eyes and said, "Did you hear that? I'm a perfect match. I'm basically the only person who can save you. And I'm not going to." A hush fell over the room as I continued. "You are the most selfish, manipulative, and rotten person I have ever known. The only reason I came back was to let you know that the one person who could save you is the one you betrayed the most. And now you get to pay for that. With your life." Tears streamed down Bella's face. My parents lunged toward me, their faces twisted in rage, but I didn't flinch. The doctor and nurse stood frozen, mouths slightly open in shock. I turned to my parents and delivered my final words to them. "Don't even think about speaking to me again. Don't you dare ask me for another thing. The only money I would ever spend on you is for your funeral, and only if I get to ensure your ashes go exactly where they belong, flushed down the filthiest toilet I can find." With that, I walked out and never looked back. Now, I'm home, my real home, with my real family, and I have never felt happier.